Free Japan Channel number 53. Today, November 30th. The time is 8 p.m. Here is Mimasaka City in Okayama Prefecture, Japan. Now I'm staying here at the end of November. Dear friends, good evening. How are you doing? Today's topic of FJC is philosophy, Hegel and Totalitarianism. Do you know the German philosopher Hegel? He lived from 18th century to 19th century. So he was born in 1770 and he died 1830. So 18th century and 19th century. At the time, the era was Napoleon era and nationalism. If you know the history of European continent, you would say so. Napoleon time and nationalism. Before the advent of Napoleon, there was French Revolution 1789. At that time, young Hegel was very excited about this revolution, and his peers, Herderlin and Schelling, these three young poets and philosophers were very excited about the occurrence of French Revolution in Paris and in France, and they were very enamored by the concept of liberty, which was the title of French Revolution. And even three of them, even planted the tree of liberty in Tübingen, where they were studying at that time, Tübingen University or Tübingen School. His peer, Schelling, he was a very genius philosopher and appointed as the professor of Jena. Jena is a city of Middle Germany, and Hegel was not nominated as professor because young Hegel didn't have enough achievement in academic area. However, in total, Hegel's philosophy was much more appreciated than that of Schelling. Therefore, we can say that Hegel was late coming philosopher, or late blooming philosopher, so to speak. And these two friends, Schelling and Hegel, their relationship broke up in the course of their academic careers. Schelling even invited Hegel to Jena University when Hegel's achievement was sufficient to the nomination of professor. So Hegel owed Schelling so much. However, their relationship broke down in the course of their careers. And today's theme is Hegel and Totalitarianism. Now, I'm talking about the philosophical situation of 19th century, at the beginning of 19th century. At that time, the philosophical stream is called idealism. So not only Hegel, but also Schelling and Fichte, they were all called idealist philosophers now in the frame of philosophical history. And this idealism is approximately explained that these philosophers thought the source of this world was the human. Human is the center of the world, and human is the only being who can perceive and recognize the world or the universe itself. Therefore, universe begins with human or self. This is a very extreme way of thinking. However, at that time in Germany, this idealism prevailed among the philosophers, and Fichte, Schelling, and Hegel, all of them were influenced by this philosophical stream. And Hegel published several books: The Phenomenology of Spirit, Encyclopedia, Major Logic, Minor Logic. These were all translated from German into English. Therefore, we can read these books in English. However, it is very difficult for us to trace the thought of Hegel. And the theme of this broadcasting, FGC, is the relationship between Hegelian philosophy and totalitarianism. Hegel was a philosopher who systematized the recognition of human beings, and he defined and structured the recognition of humans. Therefore, the system is an appropriate word for Hegelian philosophy. System: base, middle, and top. Of course, there is one another factor which describes Hegelian philosophy: dialectic. Dialectic is the thinking method to proceed to the higher level of thought. According to dialectics, synthesis is always aimed by the conflict between thesis and antithesis. The contradiction between thesis and antithesis leads to the synthesis. This synthesis is different from original thesis and another antithesis, and which is a little better. Therefore, when humans continue this way of thinking, dialectics, then humans can progress eternally. Therefore, Hegelian philosophy was called and has been called progressive philosophy because the future is always advanced from the past. From this Hegelian philosophy came two types of followers: the left Hegelians, the right Hegelians. The left Hegelians are among Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, and others, Feuerbach, Stirner, and so on. The right Hegelians, there are not so many famous people, but this right Hegelian stream eventually gave birth to Nazism in the 20th century. Therefore, when we follow the trace of Nazi thinking into the past, we encounter Hegelian philosophy. At the another end, Marx, communism. And now we know that communism was also a kind of totalitarianism. Needless to say, Nazi regime was totalitarian. On the other hand, communist regime, the representative of it was Stalin, Soviet Stalin, was also totalitarian. Therefore, we have to say now that the right Hegelians and left Hegelians were both totalitarians, unfortunately. And why were they all totalitarians after all? Because the philosophy of Hegel was systematic. The system of Hegelian philosophy was the source of totalitarianism. Therefore, in the latter half of the 20th century, the philosophers, especially French philosophers, so-called postmodern philosophers, thought that they should demolish Hegelian system, and postmodern philosophy began from this point. Hegel and totalitarianism. This is a very heavy topic, and it is difficult for me to explain this aspect in one broadcasting. Therefore, I will approach this issue from the various aspects in the following broadcasting. Thank you.